Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. When someone has experienced hurt, betrayal, or injustice, it's natural for us to feel like we are a victim. And in some cases, we absolutely are a victim. However, staying in a victim mindset can unconsciously lead to behaviors that harm others, sometimes in subtle ways. Here are some ways that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some unprocessed pain can turn into projection, control and defense mechanisms, recreating familiar patterns, victim identity blocks, blocking accountability. And we're also going to talk about some ways to break the cycle. So we're going to talk about how to shift from why me to what can I learn, how to process past pain, how to build emotional awareness, how to take responsibility for your healing, and develop self-compassion. So those are some of the topics we're going to discuss today to help us get from that victim mindset to a shift in success mindset. Even if we have been victimized, it doesn't take away the fact that we've been victimized, but can create a more linear healing process that makes things easier for us to get through and can prevent us from potentially impacting our relationships in a negative way. This victim mentality can keep us from finding compatible partners and can keep us having conflict in relationships. So this is one of the many reasons why it's really important for us to be able to process that mindset and really work through it so that we can recognize, yes, bad things have happened. Absolutely, that's the truth. However, I don't have to live in that place. Let's take our power and move it forward to how do we thrive? How do we thrive even though bad things happen? So one way to deal with this pain is to process it because sometimes it turns into projection, right? So if we haven't quite processed or dealt with that experience, if we don't heal from those past wounds, we're still being impacted by it daily as if it's happening currently. Our insecurities can turn into anger and can impact others by us maybe blaming or lashing out at others, and maybe even attributing minor negative things to more significant negative aspects, and make it difficult for us to see that some things are minor issues rather than really huge issues. So we kind of project our feelings of that victimization onto others who may not really deserve that projection. For example, is someone who was abandoned in the past might accuse a new partner of being emotionally unavailable, even if they're not, or if they're struggling with their own insecurity issues around, being liked and lovable. If they see someone that they are friends with or are in a relationship with getting accolades or getting connection with other people, they might feel threatened by that, or they might feel like maybe lashing out at that person, that they're kind of punishing that person for having those qualities that they feel like they lack. And one of our defense mechanisms is trying to get control over the situation. So when we feel powerless, when we can't, the past feels like we can't overcome it. We can't overcompensate. We tend to overcompensate by trying to control others in relationships, trying to control things that we can't control, like friendships or work. Maybe we're kind of a little bit nitpicky, or maybe we're trying to micromanage a little bit. Rather than really recognizing that we have to let go of other people and their, the way they live their lives, because we can't control that. Obviously, that doesn't mean you have to be walked on, but if you're micromanaging what someone else is doing in their life with their friends or their work, that can be problematic and can kind of exhibit itself as feeling controlling. For example, a person who was controlled in the past relationship might become overly demanding or overly critical with their current partner to avoid being hurt. This is the goal, right? It's not actually effective, because when we lash out at people and we try to control people, it tends to alienate people and push them away. But the thought process behind it is that we're maintaining control. We're reaching out for a connection or trying to gain control in a relationship by holding on too tightly. Sometimes this can also exhibit itself by someone who's maybe insecure, contacting somebody multiple times a day, or kind of checking up on them multiple times a day because their fear of being hurt or abandoned is kind of overtaking their ability to take a step back and go, hey, this is perhaps a controlling behavior that might be alienating my partner, rather than actually doing what I'm hoping it's doing, is keeping them close and safe. Another pattern that people tend to do is recreate. a historical sequence of events or historical dynamic without even realizing it. A lot of times people are doing this unconsciously. They can replicate dynamics that they suffered in the past, and this can be creating, obviously, conflict in current relationships that isn't necessarily there. So, for example, someone who grew up with an emotional, neglectful parent may unintentionally neglect their own partner's needs, partly out of just an inability to know what that looks like, for one thing, but also because they aren't really recognizing that their own hurt is maybe getting reflected in their relationship with their partner. So recreating that pattern of neglect can be not even people can do this without even being aware of it, but it can be a repetitive pattern of behavior that may keep relationship dynamics dysfunctional. Also, that victim identity can block accountability, right? If we're so busy focused on external bullies, bad guys, outside perpetrators, we can forget that we have the accountability of taking care of those wounds. Unfortunately, whether someone inflicts them on us or not, we have the responsibility of finding a way to get through that issue for our own benefit. So if we always see ourselves being wronged, we may struggle to take responsibility for our own actions and how they affect others. In some ways, this can be reflected as I always attract toxic people, perhaps, is the belief system. So instead of asking, what boundaries do I need to set that so that I can avoid having toxic relationships? So what can I do to be accountable in relationships so that whenever I see red flags of toxic behavior, I can avoid that, right? Rather than I'm powerless to this situation because toxic people will always take over my lives, right? That's not something that we can own, right? We can own having the accountability of I need to take actions. How do I learn from this experience? And this requires a little bit of a mindset shift, is how do I break the cycle and heal from these wounds? And that can be shifting that belief system from that why me? Like, why did this happen to me? I mean, we could say that about everyone who's had a bad situation, right? Why that person? It's not like there are, people who are clearly deserving of problems versus people who aren't, right? Many people who are completely innocent have bad things happen. And rather than seeing it as a why me, to change that shift to what can I learn from this experience? Again, not that you're invalidating the fact that someone wronged you or someone created a bad behavior for you or someone attacked you or victimized you, but that you can't change that instant, but you can change how you perceive the situation. So what can I learn from this situation rather than why me, which is kind of a helpless statement, right? Why me? Nobody's ever going to give a great answer to that, right? So instead of staying stuck in why did this happen to me, shift to what can I learn from this? This mindset, again, gives you power back. It takes your control over to empowering your healing and your growth. What can I learn from this situation? Even if it's like, if it's a terrible situation that you're like struggling with, what can I possibly learn from that horrible situation? Well, what you can learn from it is that you're a badass, and you can learn from this experience that you can survive, that you are remarkable at healing, that your recovery is your superpower, that your ability to overcome negative obstacles is remarkable, that you are strong, you are able to survive really hard things. So there's lots of ways you can redefine that to recognize that you're really able to overcome many difficulties rather than why me, which is, right, where do you go from there? So to process that past pain is really important, and often this is whenever coaching or therapy or journaling can be really helpful. Self-reflecting on how did that impact you? What did it mean to you? What was the thought process about yourself that you have? What's the belief that you have about yourself related to those experiences? And really help you process that unresolved trauma so that you can move forward and don't have to live stuck in that. And there's lots of tools that can help you through that. And it may be necessary to involve a therapist or a coach to really help you process that stuff, especially if it has been a really significant traumatic event. Some mental health therapy, some EMDR, some other treatment modalities you can explore to really get to the root of that problem and help you let go of that negative belief that may be keeping you stuck in that unprocessed traumatic event. So recognizing these patterns in relationships can also be really helpful. Again, if you are maybe unintentionally repeating these patterns in relationships, like I am continually finding toxic partners, or I'm continually finding partners that don't hear or value me or don't respect me. And what is it about that dynamic that you're feeling drawn to? So what's keeping you stuck and repeating these cycles that ultimately end up hurting you? Or what is it about you that you can work through to help let go of what maybe you're doing to contribute to keeping yourself stuck? Like, am I controlling others? Am I micromanaging? What am I doing in relationships? Am I taking things out on other people that maybe they don't deserve because I'm not dealing with my own insecurities? What's happening there in those relationship dynamics? Also, building emotional awareness. I find it's surprising how many people, including myself, I had to learn this the hard way, don't know what you're feeling. I mean, many of us, especially in our society, we go around and we say, "How are you?" And we say, "I'm fine, thanks. How are you?" And your life could be on fire in the background, but that's what we say. We say, "I'm fine." So a lot of us have been trained to just kind of overlook how we're feeling, and it takes kind of a little soul searching to explore what am I feeling? What's happening? Why am I controlling people? Why do I lash out? Why do I say sarcastic things? What's happening for me emotionally whenever this is happening? So notice when you're feeling defensive or you're blaming others. What is really underneath this experience? Am I reacting to this person, or am I reacting to an old wound that perhaps I need to let go of? And then practice pausing before responding. This is such a helpful thing that many of us struggle with, is not just reacting, just spouting out the first thing that comes to mind, but really taking a deep breath and allowing yourself time to process, wow, what am I feeling? Especially if you're wanting to say something that's hurtful, controlling, or blaming, or defensive, is okay, what am I feeling? And if you can start with that, that's a great response, is I feel overwhelmed, or I feel upset, or I feel triggered, or whatever that emotion is that comes up, to really start with that emotion and then move forward from there. And then take responsibility for your healing. There is no one else that can do it for us. And I know I've had to do a lot of healing myself, and it can be a hard process, but I can tell you it's a whole lot better once you do the work. Even though it's painful to dig through it, it's just really rewarding to get to the other side of that. But to recognize, especially if it is old pain that you're kind of holding on to, that it is valid, that pain is totally legitimate and valid, and you absolutely had to feel pain over that experience. That's totally legitimate. But how do we move forward at this point so that that pain isn't in the forefront of our existence right now, so that we can let that pain be in the past? And instead of blaming others for your struggles, take small actions towards your own personal growth. Again, therapy, coaching, self-care, setting some boundaries, and learning healthier communication strategies can really be effective at helping just make that a shift a little bit more effective, of really acknowledging, okay, how do I interact in the world so that I'm not continuing to perpetuate victimization, that I'm not lashing out and hurting others too, because I'm not really dealing with my own pain. I'm not causing other people to hurt also. Also, developing self-compassion. So all of us mess up. We all make mistakes. We all hurt people unintentionally. We do things that cause other people pain, and we can lash out inappropriately or be sarcastic, or even sometimes it's accidentally. We try our best and we still, maybe somebody misinterprets our intentions or our actions. So it is absolutely normal. We are going to mess up. That's a part of life. But this is where taking that personal accountability comes in, is hey, you know what? I forgive myself for messing up. I forgive myself for my past mistakes. And I'm going to start now by taking accountability and learning tools to help myself move through this, so that I don't continue to maybe lash out at others or treat others in a harsh way. And one of the things that I love to tell people is, we are our own worst enemy. So usually we're the biggest jerks in our own heads. And there's nobody that can probably beat us up emotionally as much as we do ourselves. So to really break that cycle of, hey, what am I saying to myself that is not so helpful? And how would I talk to somebody I love about this situation? Would I tell them, wow, you're a total jerk face, you're a loser? Or would I be like, wow, that was really hard. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. What can I do to help? Right? So really making sure that you're giving yourself that love and compassion and being kind to yourself in those moments. and allowing yourself some time for healing, that it's okay. Hey, I made mistakes, but it's okay. I can move forward. I can heal. Thank you so much for watching. I know that feeling like a victim is a natural response to pain, and I'm not saying that it isn't, so please don't feel that way, that it is very, very normal to feel pain and to feel reactive after a trauma or a pain experience. But again, staying in that mindset can lead to harming yourself and others. And by recognizing these patterns and healing those past wounds and taking responsibility for our growth, we can really break that cycle and can really allow for a healthier and more fulfilling life and fulfilling relationships. So thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear again your own experiences with how you've let go of some of those past hurts, or recognize that maybe you're feeling defensive or blaming, and how you work through that. And again, if this is helpful, please like and subscribe, and maybe even share it if you think that someone else might benefit from it. Thank you so much for watching.